Hey, it's Maren, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the differences between astrology and tarot, what exactly the two systems comparatively are, and why it's not really fair to say which one is better or worse or just preferable because they are very different. So I actually saw a poll on Twitter and it was like, which do you find more valuable, astrology or tarot? And I'm the queen of stopping all categorical errors or unfair categorizations in their tracks. I'm a philosophy major, getting a PhD, so I will stop these things that are not logically consistent because you can't say like one is better than the other. Like they're two different systems. It's literally like comparing apples to oranges and saying that, one is better when like they provide different minerals and shit. So let's recognize each for what they are. They are not either an art or a science. I cannot stand when people are like, the art of tarot, the science of astrology. Like, no bitch, they're not either. They're not empirically verifiable systems, and they're also not works of like creation. I mean, you can argue for both, but it's a stretch. They're different tools. They're systems of divination, though they do come at that method from two very different dynamics. So we'll start with what each is. So astrology is like satellite view. Its building blocks are the planets, the signs, the house specs, and the aspects between those things. It is an inherently technical practice. So while someone can market themselves as an intuitive astrologer, astrology itself is not an intuitive practice, it is a systematic one. So for example, someone like me, I will never claim to be an intuitive astrologer or a psychic astrologer. I use the rationale, the understanding of the systems, and the methods that are understood astronomically to be in play as the basis for my astrology, as it literally requires to be. So astrology honestly is not like a woo-woo thing. Like there's plenty of like really grounded, really non-woo people doing astrology. It just so happens that people who are into woo would by correlation tend to be into astrology. It is not that astrology is woo. So astrology requires an understanding of astronomical rationale and an integration of pattern synthesis. So the reasons that certain things represent certain other things in astrology is because of the astronomy behind it being symbolic. And astrology itself, I say time and time again, is a system of pattern synthesis. You are seeing the same combinations replayed in different mixtures and organizations time and time again to better and most efficiently synthesize stories that you're seeing into useful information for your client or for whatever you're using astrology for. It is much more of a clear, objective point of view. Even though we all have our individual biases, it is much more straightforward, as if you are looking at something vertically from a bird's eye point of view. Whereas tarot is much more like Google Street View. You're in there, you're looking at the situation very personably, and the tarot itself is built by the 22 major arcana cards and the 56 minor arcana cards. Basically, each card tells kind of like a snapshot of a film, if it's a minor arcana card, or a snapshot of an archetypal character if it's a major arcana card generally. It's like stories contained in pictures. Tarot is an intuitive practice that does require technical proficiency, but ultimately rests on the ability to harness one's oracular abilities in congruence by the themes suggested by the cards altogether. So you're threading stories in a way that is coming through you because you are able to absorb the meaning of the stories together. But it does require the basis of technicality, but it more so requires your intuitive ability to thread those together using the technicalities. Not like astrology where it hinges on the technical aspect. Tarot requires a familiarity with each of the stories of the arcana, plus an ability to tune into one's inner guide. Tarot provides a predominantly here and now viewpoint from a horizontal perspective. Even when describing the past or the future, its locus of relativity is here and now, in the present moment, with the cards at hand. So, what are the differences here? Well, astrology is much more left-brained, generally. I mean, sure, you can call me out for being unnuanced, blah, blah, blah. There's always a but this, but like, astrology is much more left-brained. Therefore, it's more predictable. It's more linear. Astrology isn't relative to intuition. You can pull up the same chart at any point in history of a certain particular time. You can pull it up in any other time in history, and the chart is not going to change. It's always going to tell the same story. Your lens might be different, your interpretations of picking up certain stories might be different, but astrology is there. A chart isn't going to play games or lie, so to speak. Like whether or not you pick up on the patterns are there. Obviously, a practitioner's biased lens, which is unavoidable, will always take part, but that isn't the foundational basis of the study. Tarot, being much more fluid and intuitive, is much more right-brained. It's a more subjective practice because it's weaving together a character-based dynamic with more fluidity than a chart can, which in a chart can tend to have so many stories going on at once that you are breaking it down, whereas in tarot, you're more like lifting it up and making it re-enchanted. Decks themselves, like tarot decks, are responsive to the present moment of the practitioner, whether that is like present with mockery or present with validation or just insight. So in comparing the two, like there's not one that's more valuable. There is like, I am better at using this and therefore it has more valuable to me. It has more value to me, but there's no way to say that one is better, one is more valuable, one is more insightful. It comes down to what your skill set better offers up with the two. They're so different, like all forms of divination. I mean, if you're reading, like tea leaves and whatnot, like they're all very different in their individual ways, and astrology will give you the wide scope, the omniscient perspective, if you want to see it that way, while tarot gives you the momentary entryway of boom, here's the story. So I use both. I offer readings in both, I offer combined readings in both, even though deep down I am much more of an astrology girl because I like my rules, I like my technical shit, I like my rationale, and I like to understand what's happening. My Virgo sun on the North Node is like, micromanagement. Which is why learning the tarot took a bit out of me to be able to tap into intuition instead of be like boom, 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 quoting ancient shit. Anyway, let me know which one you prefer, which one you like to use better, not in a way of which one is better, but which one, you like better. So yeah, let me know down below. Like, subscribe, do all the things, check out my readings down below, and I will see you in the next video.